You know him as the Film Guy on YouTube. You can follow him online at Brooks Austin BA. Welcome back to the show, Brooks Austin. Appreciate you coming back on, man.
Yeah, last time I was on with you guys, I think I was in a very shoddy internet connection on a balcony next to Matt Galatson live from LA. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
Right? Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah, a little bit better technology, a little bit better sound, a little bit better image today. Excited to be here.
Appreciate you coming on. So let's get into it for Texas versus Georgia. First and foremost, I know you have been a proponent of Mike Bobo. You have been on his positive side, even though people at Georgia cannot stand him. With the offense being the front runner of this team this year and the thing that is carrying this Georgia team, have you been accepted a little bit more in your ideas being accepted at Georgia, or are you still an outcast with these ideas?
No, look, we have a co-host on the channel. His name's Christian Kirby. He is treating Texas A&M as this, like, I don't care what you do. You better go play in a playoff game before I actually say you're a college football playoff team. Georgia fans treat Mike Bobo the same way. Crap. He will be crap until he wins a national title. It doesn't matter. It really does not matter. I mean, we joke about this, but in all seriousness, in 2023, his first year returning as the offensive coordinator at the University of Georgia, when he had Brock Bowers, when he had Ladd McConkey, when Carson Beck was playing good football, they led the nation in third down conversion percentage. They had the second most points per game in the history of Georgia football. Like, they were a great offensive unit in 2023. They're a great offensive unit again in 2025. They were a mediocre unit last year that led the nation in drops and couldn't run the football. Last year was the anomaly. The 2 years outside of the sandwich year that was bad last year is not. That's standard Mike Bobo offensive performances. It's so crazy because, like, the dude left Georgia in 2015 or whenever it was, his last stop at Georgia. And, like, bar for bar, stat for stat, was the greatest offensive coordinator the program had ever had. And then Todd Monken comes down here, wins a national title with the best talented pool Georgia has ever had. And now that's the new standard. If you you suck and you should be fired. So it's just the way fandom is, honestly. I don't think this is subjected only to Georgia football.
Well, so I watched one of your breakdowns earlier today, Brooks, the preview for Texas and Georgia on the Film Guy Network. Always good stuff. Everybody should go check it out. And you talked about Arch and the way that Texas had kind of rebounded over the last couple weeks, like in the last 6 quarters, and how you don't think that it's necessarily much to do with the offensive line making that change in the Vanderbilt game, but just Arch being a dude. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit and tell our listeners what like why you're so high on Arch right now?
Look, I thought against Oklahoma, they did a bunch of, like, let's try to get the ball into the flat and make these guys tackle. They're going to flood the deep concepts. They're going to take those things away from us. So let's give the quarterback some opportunities to get the ball out of his hand. Wisner, after the catch, was tremendous in that football game, really flipped the field several times for them. And then they tried to replicate a very similar game plan against Kentucky to no avail, really, but found a way to win, right? Offensively, it looked pretty stagnant throughout that football game. And then you look at that last, like, really 20 minutes against Mississippi State. And like I showed on the film and like I showed on Paul Feinbaum, like, there's nothing really got better. Like, protection didn't clean up. They didn't all of a sudden, like, find ways to get the ball out of his hand. No, he just competed from dirty pockets. He found ways to extend plays so they could hit deep shots to Ryan Wingo. And, yeah, the protection got cleaned up some to an extent against Vandy. But, again, I felt like that was more of the quarterback being great than other things around him being, magically patched up in the middle of the season. There were too many problems. And, Matt, I think you and I talked about this privately. There were too many problems, and there still are, with the roster for them to just patchwork it all in the middle of the season. Like, we're patchworking offensive line stuff. We're patchworking the fact that we can't run the football. We're we're doing way too much or having to fix way too much. The only thing to get us out of it is elite quarterback play. And I think that's what they're getting right now.
You're muted, Patrick.
We've seen Gunnar Stockton push ahead more and more this season and turn into the quarterback he's being. But one of the fun stats you'll see in this matchup is that in the SEC, The two quarterbacks who throw passes behind the line of scrimmage the most are Gunnar Stockton and Arch Manning, because it works. You have really great talented players. You are able to get them in space and try and move them downfield. How much of Gunnar Stockton's progress have you seen where you're starting to see him step into that role where there's less and less ways to slow him down in this game? And what is the way Texas has a shot to try and find his biggest weakness, even though there may not be a lot of it left?
You know, I think honestly, if y'all would have caught this matchup early on in the year, like third or fourth game of the year, when he was still really struggling to pull the trigger against zone coverages, which Texas kind of lives in, it would have been a much more fortuitous matchup for Texas's defense in this one. And I don't know what's going. Can you guys help me out here? Because I'm having to talk about Texas a lot. Why are y'all banged up in the secondary room? I know Taft's been hurt, but I look up and it's like a freshman playing nickel, number 24, a freshman got mixed in at corner. Like, why are y'all so young all of a sudden at DB? And what happened? Has it been sustained injuries?
So in the Vanderbilt game, Taft was out already with the broken thumb. Jelani McDonald got a concussion early, and then Xavier Filsaime ended up getting hurt by the end of that game.
It's
been Grayson Littleton, though, the freshman star, has been there all season. He's been a star for us, a real.
And there's no doubt that kid's going to be elite. Like, you can tell he's survived. He's playing good football right now, probably 15 pounds underweight. Like, you can see it. It's very clear as day. That is a freshman out there. He's playing good ball. I don't mean to like point him out, but it's just, it was interesting to see, like, to me, I was talking to somebody in the SEC about this today. Turning on the tape for Texas and seeing them not be all that great and like susceptible in the defensive backfield and be susceptible on the offensive line, like, that to me is very, very weird to see. Like, how can a roster that has spent that much money, no different than Georgia, no different than Ohio State, I don't mean to single y'all out as a program with resources. There's a lot of these. How are y'all a program with resources that is bad at the premier positions? How are y'all not good at offensive line and DB? And the DB answer is injuries. That makes sense. The one at offensive line is still very, very weird to me. I don't know how that's possible. Y'all's offensive coordinator in the football world is one of like the most highly coveted and respected offensive line minds that there is. Like, they pay this guy to come speak to coaching clinics. That's how good he is. So it's very, very weird to me that Texas is up and down offensive line wise.
Well, I think that part of that, Brooks, is because, number one, I don't think they expected the right tackle to go to the NFL after last season, because it was his first year as a starter, and he got a 6th round or a day 3 grade, and he ended up going out anyway. And I think that kind of set them back a little bit. And I think they just made a couple of bad personnel decisions in the offseason. They didn't prioritize the interior of the offensive line and the transfer portal, which they should have done. And it's been reflected this year. I mean, left guard has been a major, major issue for them. Nick Brooks, who you know very well, is a Grayson high school guy. He's a tackle. And he made his first start of his career, really his first meaningful gameplay experience, against Oklahoma in the Red River Shootout. And he's been very, very – he had one good game, I think, and then after that he's been really down. So I chalk it up to personnel decisions. I think that they're going to fix that this offseason. I think they've still recruited pretty well there, but nobody there's no experience there that they can rely on like they have at right guard with DJ Campbell.
And honestly, guys, I don't mean to cut you off, but I find this dichotomy and this split on rosters between veteran old head who's been here for a while, and then there seems to be no sophomore and junior classes on a lot of these rosters, and then it's immediately freshmen. Like, Georgia's got this thing going on too, where it's Ernest Green, 4th year, 3rd year starter for them. And when he's not playing, a true freshman, Juan Gaston, is playing, right? And then they got a Micah Morris left guard who's been there for 5 years and is really just now being in a starting role. And the right guard's a true freshman in Donnie Glover. There is no like sophomore, junior class nowadays. And I think a lot of that is because if you're a sophomore, or if you're a freshman and now you're a sophomore and you're going into your junior year at Texas, Georgia, or Ohio State, and you're not playing, you better get your butt out of there. Like, Texas is a byproduct of this as well. Hero Kanu was not playing for the first 2 years at Ohio State. Now he's playing a lot at Texas. So y'all get this both ways. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's causing this split in these rosters in terms of age and experience.
Yeah, I think it's that. I also add in NIL and having a budget and just realizing we can't have 3 left guards anymore and 3 DBs. Like, we can have 1, and then when that guy's a junior, we need to get the freshman behind him, or we need to try and get that next guy. But we just can't afford a double stacked roster, which, I mean, especially Georgia right now is probably the first time they've dealt with that in 10 years of not just being able to stack class after class after class. Well, I know we had that senior graduate. We have a junior who's just as good right behind him. And so there was, at the beginning of the season for Georgia, a few more holes that you thought you wouldn't find. They feel like they're starting to figure out Texas, that offensive line, the Cole Hudson experiment at center. I think they thought, well, he's good at left guard, he'll be good at center, and he wasn't. They move him back to left guard, and he plays the best he's played all season long last week or 2 weeks ago. So, you just sometimes are trying to figure that out. It does feel like this Texas-Georgia matchup, both these teams, you maybe were licking your lips a little bit earlier in the season, like, oh, if we could play that team, we'll beat them by 20. And now it's staying. They both evolved throughout. To you on Georgia, who's the guys that have really stepped up? I know the wide receiver room, Zachariah Branch has been great, but, you have some injuries there, and some other guys are stepping up right now. Where on this Georgia roster are you seeing probably the biggest step up in impressive young players?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be Elias Williams, the 6'7", 235-pound tight end that was a former 5-star out of high school just a year ago at Camden County down in South Georgia. That is a football player who spent 3 years in a triple option offense as an end-of-line tight end, so he kind of learned how to physically dominate people with his frame and play defensive end, big physical football player. And then his last year, they had a coaching change down there at Camden County. They started running the air raid, so they put him out at wide receiver. So he had 3 years of good fundamental foundation work of blocking people at the point and really asserting his physical dominance. And then a year of, well, I'm going to go for a rack as a true wide receiver, right? Getting outside and getting man-to-man up against corners and figuring out how to run routes and learning how to space and learning how to, like, gear myself down and find windows and zones and, like, learning how to be a weapon and be a wide receiver. And now at Georgia last week on 2 back-to-back plays, you saw exactly that. He isolates on 3rd and 12 against a safety, and he's just too damn fast to put a linebacker on him, but he's way too damn big to ever put a safety on him. And we high point a football, 40-yard explosive. The next play, they run duo right behind him. He gets, again, matched up against a safety on the line of scrimmage, and now you have a 6'7", 235-pound tight end blocking a safety 2 or 3 yards into the end zone for a touchdown. And that's a player, by the way, that's really only getting playing time right now because Ethan Barbour, another true freshman, was starting for this roster at tight end at the start of the season. He broke his ankle. So they are very, very young. I saw a stat the other day. I think they're the roster with the second most freshmen playing at this point in the season in the SEC. So they're one of the more talented rosters in the sport, but they're a really young football team that's getting a lot of juice out of true freshmen. I mean, I think they're playing 4 or 5 of them at this point, and all of them are playing good ball.
Well, Brooks, you've watched a lot of film on this game. You are the film guy after all. You've done a lot of breakdowns. You got more coming, I'm sure. If you're the Texas Longhorns offensively, what is your game plan to try to beat this Georgia defense? Because last season, two matchups, Georgia dominated them on the line of scrimmage. They used that 50 front, 5 down linemen, all those different things, all those different pressures and things that they did to really, muck up what Texas was trying to do offensively. You've seen Texas's offensive line issues and their skill positions and where Arch is right now. What do they have to do to be successful against Georgia?
For me, dust off the Oklahoma game plan off again. Like, we have got to find ways to move our quarterback, get him outside of the pocket. I'm not saying run our quarterback. There's 2 different discussions. I'm talking about moving the launch point. We have to make sure that if we take 30 snaps, if we throw the football 35 times today, 10 of those better be outside of the pocket. He better be rolling. He better be getting out of what is a traditional drop back setting, because I don't believe us to be sound there. When we do get outside of the pocket, we better be hunting explosives. All right. So that's the thing to me. Like, with the first, 7 or 8 football games of watching Texas this year, I would say over and over again, I thought their best passing option was Arch's legs. when he gets outside of the pocket, he does such a great job of keeping his eyes downfield. Guys like DeAndre Moore and Ryan Wingo do such a great job in scramble drill. If I'm high, come back low. If I'm low, go high. And they hunt explosives when he's outside of the pocket. So I think that is the key in this football game for me for Texas. At this point in the season, I put away any idea of, oh, we're just going to summon balance. We're just going to summon the ability to run the football. No, I don't think that's how this works. I think we, at this point in the year, have to figure out ways to win with the flaws that we already have on our roster, and that's the only way Texas gets out of this. I think they are very similar in style of victory that Alabama was. You got to come over here, and your quarterback's got to throw for 340 yards, and you got to play sound defense. That's it. That's the way to beat Georgia in Athens this year.
Speaking with Brooks Austin from the Film Guy Network. Brooks, we know Georgia's sack numbers have been down this year. Maybe not the same players on the edge that you've normally had over there. But this is a Texas offensive line that maybe had their best look 2 weeks ago in the last game they played, but has been vulnerable to get the pressure in. And you just talked about Arch being able to scramble and get outside. Do you think Kirby and this Georgia team dial up a little bit more pressure onto this team, or do they just say, just go beat us? You can't run on us. We know you can't run on us. So try and go beat us. And Arch, if you're able to throw for 350, God bless you. But I don't think you can.
Yeah, so I think it's an interesting matchup because Georgia has all but, I'm not going to say given up outside pass rush, but most of their concerted efforts to get home have come over the guards. And that's a bad matchup for Texas because that's where most of their problems have arisen in terms of pass protection. It's not at left tackle. I think Brandon Baker has a lot of room to grow in the run game, but he's a good pass protector for my money. So I don't think that's necessarily a problem at tackle. It's problems protecting at guard to guard, right, for you guys. For Georgia, you mentioned losing your right tackle unexpectedly to the NFL draft. Georgia had this multiple times over for a variety of different reasons. Tyron Ingram-Dawkins gets a draft grade back of a top 90 eval, and nobody saw that coming. He absolutely dips out unexpected. That's a defensive end that had 4.5 sacks last year for this football team in partial role, by the way, in like spot time, playing behind Mykel Williams. They lose Damon Wilson, who is like a top 10 edge rusher in the sport right now in terms of pressure rate. They lose him in the middle of January out of nowhere. I mean, they had conversations with that kid expecting him to be back in Athens, and he goes to the portal and goes to Missouri like that with no, hey, do you want to raise your dollar value? No, it's I'm gone. I'm out of here. So these sudden losses nowadays are things that via the draft and via the portal that can leave you midway through November of the next year going, well, damn, we don't have any pass rush or we can't protect the quarterback. Well, yeah, we had sudden losses that we couldn't prepare for because we're in the middle of a playoff run when the portal's open.
Yeah, no, I think that hits the nail right on the head. And Patrick and I have talked about that a ton over the last couple of weeks, like moving the portal window to the one window right in the middle of the playoff run. That's just going to screw over the teams that are actually in the playoff playing for meaningful football and set them behind because it's impossible to coach and also try to retain your roster and do all the things you have to do to build your roster.
We have to pretend as if making sure these students can get enrolled by January of mid-semester, spring semester. We have to pretend as if this stuff matters. We got to watch out for the calendar. We got to watch out for the school calendar, not the football calendar.
Of course. Yeah, of course. But back to the game because we could talk about the portal for 45 more minutes. On the flip side, defensively for Texas, this is a team in Georgia that has been very dominant in the run game as of late. And their receivers are far different from what they were last year with Zachariah Branch. I think I heard you say earlier today he leads the nation in yak yardage. How would you defend this Georgia offense with Gunnar Stockton and his legs and all the different things that he can throw at you? And like this is a Texas team too that has gotten pieced up over the last 3 weeks by Kentucky, Mississippi State, and Vanderbilt late in that game.
Yeah, so it's tough because I don't think you can play man-to-man coverage against Georgia this year. Like you feel as if you have to dedicate yourself to the box, which leads to stop the run because they're so good at it and they're so physical at it and their bodies are so big and the offensive line's so great and the backs are so good and the quarterback adds into the equation. So you feel as if you got to dedicate yourself to all these run fits and whatnot. And then if you leave yourself playing man-to-man right now, they are murdering teams. They are absolutely killing teams in man-to-man coverage. Gunnar Stockton downfield hitting these guys. The Dylan Bell iced Ole Miss in man-to-man coverage. Elias Williams iced Mississippi State in man-to-man coverage. Alabama played it one time and got beat. Tennessee tried to play it 13 or 14 times and got killed all 14 times. Their weaponry is too good right now. Their weaponry is too good to just line up and say, oh, well, we're going to cover you. No, most likely you will not. So that's the main problem that they're creating right now. The other thing is, if I were to try to stop Georgia, I would just throw a bunch of mixed zone coverage at Gunnar and hope he doesn't process it quite cleanly. But the further and further we get into his progression as a quarterback, some of those problem areas that we saw the first month of the season aren't really there anymore. I felt like he had one miss last week against zone coverage, but apart from that, and it was a miss where we were just a little bit late. Like earlier in the season, he just would have taken a sack. He wouldn't have even tried to throw it. He just would have ate the football. That type of stuff is what really, really scares me for Georgia in this football, or for Texas in this football game, on top of the fact that y'all have not been clean in pass coverage. Like, it is consistently busting routes. I felt like watching the Vandy tape, I felt like Diego Pavia left a good 70 yards on tape and he threw for 330. Like that was really, really interesting to see. Yeah, like Colin Simmons is a game wrecker. Anthony Hill's great. I love Ethan Burke, the tight end as well, or the defensive end as well. Like, the personnel in the box is great. What's going on right now in the DB room at Texas is very, very confusing and concerning.
Yeah, it'll be nice to get Michael Taft back this weekend. That is for sure to get him back there. Brooks, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but let's get to the final of what we think will happen in this game. What do you see being kind of the biggest factor in this game? And does Texas stand a chance, or is this just Georgia getting it put together and they win at home?
First and foremost, does Texas stand a chance? Woe is me. Come on, guys. So y'all have recruited inside the top 3 for 3 straight years. You got a chance every single time you line it up. You should have an expectation to win. So let's do that. Let's get that out of the way first and foremost.
Thank you, Brooks.
I mean, good Lord. I do think there is a real problem here in the sense that as long as I have covered this sport, you can't be one-dimensional. And what do I mean by that? And beat Georgia. You have an ability to stop the run defensively, but you give it up in explosives in the passing department. You're one-dimensional defensively right now. Offensively, you cannot establish the run. You can't establish a run against bad run defenses. You can't establish a run against good run defenses. You lean on the pass department. You are one-dimensional offensively. I don't know how it leads to a recipe to be a well-rounded, fully completed Georgia football team. They don't really have one of these inefficients. They're just really good top 25 across the board at everything they do. Add on top of the fact that this is a home game. Add on top of the fact that this is the third prep for Glenn Schumann, this defensive brainchild, to prepare for this Texas offense. Though the quarterback has changed, I don't believe the system has all that much. I still think it is Steve Sarkisian, Texas offense with a better quarterback right now.
You got a score prediction for us, or are you going to pick a winner?
Yeah, I mean, I got it. I think tonight I'm going to go 34 or like 31-27 Georgia. I think it's like a 1-score fourth quarter football game, and I'm going to pick Georgia to win.
All right, brother. I appreciate you joining us, Brooks. Follow him, the Film Guy Network. Great breakdowns every week. You will get to check everything out. He's got tons of prep that you need to go check out for this game as well.
Question: If Texas loses this week and beats A&M, do we stand on the table at 9-3 college football playoff participant? I do. I think that would be better than Notre Dame's 10-2. Just my opinion.
I think you and I are on the same page with that one, Brooks.
Of course you are, you Longhorn homer. I'm giving the unbiased take.
Hey, my take is 3-loss teams shouldn't make the playoffs. But I'll also say this: I'll probably change my mind if we lose this week. But my general take is 3-loss teams shouldn't make the playoffs. We should have less teams in, not more. But that's just me. Appreciate you so much, Brooks. Check him out. Follow him at Brooks Austin BA as well. We really appreciate your time.
Matthew, we'll see you this weekend.
Yes, sir. See you Friday.